O'Neill Outside Radio is brought to you by these fine sponsors: WORX Power and Garden Tools, Toyota, let's go places. Visit your local Toyota dealers today. Big Green Egg, the most popular and most versatile ceramic grill. TUFF Shed, great storage sheds and custom buildings. YEARONE, classic car parts for American muscle cars. Arctic Ice, the most durable, versatile, and effective cooler packs available. Timbuktu Outdoors, the ideal solution to live bait. Furminator, the best food plot implement on earth. And the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and State Parks.
From Black Powder Headquarters and the Bojangled Studio at Three Falls Cabin in the North Georgia Mountains, it's time for O'Neill Outside. For anything in the outdoors, this is your source. Listen in and call the show with your comments or questions. And now, here's O'Neill.
Well, O'Neill is taking the weekend off again. He's out stalking Johnny Mathis with his wife. Scott Maxim filling in with you today here on O'Neill Outside. We've got 2 hours of outdoor talk coming at you this morning, and we are brought to you by these fine sponsors here on WORX Radio: WORX Tools, Stripling's General Store, TUFF Shed, Snellville Heating and Air, Rocco's Pub, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and State Parks and Historical Sites, the Big Green Egg, Smokers and Grills, and True Turn Hooks and Roadrunner Lures. If you want to watch the program, you can check us out on Fox Networks and visit the O'NeillOutside.com section with the video on demand. That's right, you can watch a bunch of the shows that we've archived for you there for your convenience. You can also find us on YouTube and once again on the O'Neill Outside website. We're also live here this morning on 95.5 FM WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, and coast to coast on SB Nation. We have 155 affiliate stations across the country, like up in the north, WEEI Boston, and in the south, southwest actually, the Big Ticket in Dallas, and dozens more. Plus, you can listen to the podcast of the show and many more at WSBRadio.com, Waypoint TV, and O'Neill Outside. This week, we've got a big show for you. We've got the O'Neill Outside mailbag answering your questions. We've got the Medal of Honor recipient, as usual, at the end of the program. You're going to want to stick around for that. We have a radio prize pack where we give away a lot of cool swag to people. The Ram Fishing Report with Captain Mac a little later on. And today, we're going to be discussing the miracle meat that I call venison. That's right. You got a bunch of it in your freezer after the harvest this year. How good is it for you? We'll find out about that. We'll also take a look at why that meat may taste like shoe leather. It's not your fault. It may be. We'll find out. And we'll take a look at a lot more hunting, fishing stories, and we'll be taking your calls as well. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. I'm Scott Maxim. This is O'Neill Outside on WSB.
If you think
Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this week. We've got Corey on the boards doing his magic here at the flagship 95.5 WSB. Justin will be taking your calls today, 404-872-0750 in the metro Atlanta area, 800-972-8255. That's 800 WSB Talk if you prefer letters. That's outside the Atlanta calling area. And my big question for y'all today before we get into the mailbag here is, how'd your harvest go for the deer season this year? All right? Only a couple more counties here left in Georgia can do that with some primitive weapons. Everybody else, well, I want to know what you bagged this year. I want to know how it went. I want to know how much you got in the freezer. Give us a call. Let's go straight into the mailbag now, however, and take a look at some questions from our listeners. Now, if you have a question for the show, all you need to do is go to O'NeillOutside.com, scroll on down the page to the registry guest book. You'll find a little button there. You press it, and you can register for the O'Neill Outside guest book. You'll get some great information via email about what's going on with the show, where you can see O'Neill and other giveaways and special things we have for our listeners. Plus, you can ask O'Neill a question. And if we choose your question and you're the choice winner of the week, let's say, you'll get a $50 gift card or $50 worth of swag from our very fine sponsors. Just look for that big Enter Now button in the guest book section, click it, and shoot your question to us like this one here. I got a gentleman named Douglas Compton from East Brainerd, Tennessee, and his question is as follows. I'm getting older and the eyes aren't what they once were. I'm having a hard time picking up my shotgun's brass bead sight and was wondering if you had a suggestion about how I can fix this. Thanks. Love the show. Well, thanks for listening, Doug. First of all, you have myriad options for your shotgunning. I'm assuming you're getting ready for turkey season, and that's not a bad thing to get your gun up to spec for you heading into the turkey season. So what do you do if the eyesight's starting to fail a little bit? It's not a hard thing to take care of, my friend. All you need to do is look for a fiber optic either replacement sight for your shotgun, or you can get one that's magnetic. The magnetic ones are fantastic. If there's a top rib on your shotgun, for example, like on an over-under, just snap that sucker on there. It's magnetic. It will go nowhere, and it gives you a bright sight that pops as soon as the light hits. It could be blue, it could be green, it could be combinations of colors, but it's always going to be a bright color up there that allows you to draw your attention to that sight. A lot easier than using a bead, by the way. If you have one of the more common shotguns, many companies are out there making direct screw-ins. So all you have to do is, if the bead is still there, unscrew it. If it's not, you may have to retap it, but you can screw in a new fiber optic sight, and that will take care of any problems. In addition, if you are, for example, having the same problems with your handguns, I would suggest this. If you want to go out to the range and get a little practice time in, look for some protective glasses that have the bifocal enlargement on the top edge of the lens. Why? So when you raise the gun to aim, you're not tilting your head up to look at the typical bifocal area at the bottom of the lens. Your head and eyes are naturally drawn to where that gun is as normal, and you're able to see out that top bifocal. So little extra info for you there, Doug. Hope that helps. Next question comes to us from, let's see where we have Lou Westerberg in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of my old hometowns. The question is this: do you wear your life vest flotation device when you're fishing? The answer, always. And let me put it to you this way: don't even worry about it when you're fishing. If you are going out on the water anywhere, canoe, kayak, boats, speedboats, water skiing, you always need to wear that flotation device. You never know when something might happen where you doink your head on the side of the boat, or, for some reason or other cramp up. It's going to help you stay alive, people. And every year we go through this with folks. We hear about these sad stories of drownings of people because they're not wearing their life preservers or their vests when they go out to the lake. Let's be safe, and always remember to wear that flotation device. So there you go. Ben Morris, Chattanooga, Tennessee, has a question here this morning. Says, when turkey hunting, what's the most important thing? Setup, camo, movement, calling, or scouting? Okay? All of the above, but yet at the same time, none of the above. The most important thing when turkey hunting is patience. You have to have patience to get those birds. Without patience, you're going to be moving around, fidgeting around, and the first thing that happens is you are flat busted. That's how the turkey spots you. It's about movement. So yes, all of these things are important. And actually a little bit later on today, if I've got some time, I've got some tips to get you ready to go out for turkey hunting. That's coming up next month, coincidentally around my birthday, which is extremely cool by me. But we'll set you up with some turkey hunting tips as far as getting ready for the new season. But it does involve all these things: setting up your camo, movement, calling, and scouting. They're all important, but only when they are practiced with patience. So that's the first thing that's going to get that bird for you, is a little bit of patience. 404-872-0750 is the number. 800-972-8255 if you have any questions for yours truly. John Phillips, Birmingham, Alabama, asks, I was invited to a friend's home and we had venison, O'Neill. It was awful. How do you guys eat that stuff? Well, sad to say, John, apparently you just got a bad piece of venison there, my friend. Venison, when it's prepared properly, is one of the best and most delicious meats you can get your hands on. And you don't have to worry about getting fancy with it. As a matter of fact, simplicity is the key to cooking a good piece of venison. Overcooking it, for example, on a grill, it's going to turn it to leather. You can't cook it quite the same way as a steak. Remember, it doesn't have the marbling that steak does with the fat in the meat. So there's going to be a little bit of flavor loss, comparatively speaking, and also it's going to be a little less tender unless you're very careful for how you cook it. So that's what you need to be aware of, and it may not necessarily be the fault of the venison itself. We'll actually talk about this a little bit later on in greater detail, but the problem to me sounds like maybe you just got a bad experience there with that particular venison meal. So there you go. We've hit the mailbag, and if you have anything you'd like to add to it by giving us a call here and participating in the program, the number 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. I've got about a minute or two here before we've got to bail out. I want to talk about a sad situation here about a hunter who's been dubbed the unluckiest hunter in America. And here's why. Tyler Hardy, he was returning from a hunting trip in Mississippi. He's got his dogs with him, was a hunting partner with him. He's got a pack on his back, and he's heading back to the truck to load up everything for the trip home. And he encounters a flooded ditch on his path, so he looks for a way across, jumps, and as soon as he hits the other side of the bank, boom, he feels a hit on the side of his head that he said felt like he had been shot or hit with an axe. What was it? It was a copperhead. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most unusual things that will happen around this time of the year. This copperhead was coiled up in a tree. And typically in the wintertime, they won't do that. They like to hang out on the ground and everything like that. But what they think happened is that this copperhead was chased up the tree by flooding in the area. So unfortunately for Mr. Hardy, he got hit by that copperhead as soon as he jumped across that lake. But fortunately, he was with his hunting partner. His wife is a nurse practitioner, and the best tool to have in the field was with him as well. He had his cell phone, called ahead to his wife, who happens to be a nurse practitioner. They set up a nearby emergency room to take him. Excuse me. And they were able to get him the necessary treatment that he needed in order to transfer him to the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson. He's doing well. He is recovering, so that's great. But be aware, the copperhead's a nasty snake, y'all, and that was a very, very unusual situation. That's a 1 in a billion copperhead strike. You'll probably never hear about that again, and I'm just happy to say that Mr. Hardy is doing well. He is recovering and looks to be just fine, getting ready for the next hunting season, I imagine. If you got a question, if you want to call, if you want to participate, hit those phones and punch the numbers in this order: 404-872-0750 in Atlanta, 800-972-8255. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. I'm Scott Maxim. Come on back, y'all.
If you think
All right, welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this week, and we are ready to go with the Radio Prize Pack. This is a chance for listeners of the program to pick up some really good swag for listening to O'Neill Outside and being loyal listeners. We appreciate that. And up for grabs this week, a Bojangles gift card, a Big Green Egg koozie kit, the Angler magazine, a Georgia DNR Regulations magazine, Georgia State Parks Guide, 1 can of Fisher Choice baits, a selection of True Turn tackle, Arctic Ice travel pack, a moon phase clock forecaster, and a hydro shot glass. The question today: one of our long-term sponsors of O'Neill Outside's TV and radio show is CVA muzzleloaders. What does CVA stand for? If you're on the phones right now, sorry, you're not eligible. Give us a call. Let us know. What does CVA stand for? 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. And while we wait for somebody to give us a call with that answer, let's go to the phones. Let's see who's been waiting here a moment. We have Sam here in Dahlonega. Let's see if we can get Sam on the line. Sam, good morning. How are you? And welcome to O'Neill Outside.
Well, good morning, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. What can we do for you on this fine day?
Well, I wanted to let all the fly fishermen know out there, I've got a new book out, first-in-class book, meaning there's not another book like this, called Fly Fishing the Blue Ridge Parkway. Covers over 200 watersheds up and down the North Carolina section of the parkway, and the book is forwarded by the retired superintendent of the Blue Ridge Parkway. So it's got a lot of detail in there about the history, and then extreme detail on each of the watersheds.
I'll say this, Sam. There's one thing I will say about that, too. The Blue Ridge Parkway is actually one of the best driving roads out there as well. It sounds to me like what you got in mind is chucking a fishing pole in the car, going for a great drive, and then finding a nice little hole to set up in.
Well, that's exactly right, Scott. It's 469 miles, and it was originally built as a scenic byway to showcase the Appalachian Mountains from the Shenandoah National Park all the way down to the Smoky Mountain National Park. And so you got a lot of watersheds. In fact, most of the major watersheds of the southeast, originate somewhere up and around that area and either flow out into the Atlantic or north and then down into the Gulf. So there's a lot of water that gets overlooked by a lot of fly fishermen out there.
And if you're a fly fisherman, what would you say is what's your favorite spot to go hit along that ride?
That is so hard for me to do. I'm asked that question a lot, but something close to us here in Georgia, especially the Oconaluftee River, just in western Carolina, of course, is at the very end of the Blue Ridge Parkway. And then you got the Raven Fork, and then right up under Asheville, you got the Pigeon River, the Davidson River. There's no end to the water along this road.
That sounds beautiful, man. No question about it. Sounds like a day built for a Corvette and a fishing pole to me.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, how can we get a hold of this book?
Well, it's in probably about 30 or 40 different outfitters up and down the Parkway, all the way up to the Virginia line. Or you can go on my website www.wildbearings.com and order it. It's available in nearly all the the outlets like Amazon and those types of distributors also.
Can I assume there's some pretty pictures too?
Man, there's 146 color images, and it's about 308 pages long, but a lot of images.
Oh, awesome! Because I'm not a reader. I like looking at the pretty pictures.
There's plenty for you, Scott.
Sounds great. Well, thanks a lot for giving us a call this morning. And you fixing to go out today and go do a little fishing yourself?
Actually, I'm visiting some outfitters today.
Oh, outstanding. Well, you do your thing. Have yourself a wonderful day. And thanks very much for giving us a call here on O'Neill Outside.
Thank you, Scott.
Take it easy. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Well, looks like we have a winner here for our prize back. Let's go to the phones here and talk to Daryl from Dallas. Now, is this Dallas, Georgia, or the Big D, Daryl?
This is the Big D. This is Dallas, Georgia.
There you go. Outstanding, Daryl. Okay, so the question today for the radio prize pack was, one of our long-term sponsors of our TV and radio show is CVA Muzzleloaders. What does CVA stand for?
Connecticut Valley Arms.
That is correct, sir. You are good to go. Daryl, did you get all your information in to Mr. Justin there on the phone?
Yes, I did.
Oh, outstanding. So, great. You got yourself an awesome prize pack. Thanks for listening to O'Neill Outside. What's your game plan for today? You got any plans to get outside this weekend, sir?
No, I'm working today. I'm hauling. I drive a truck, so I'm working today. So I got to work till about 3 or 4 o'clock today. So go home a little bit. After a while, work around the yard, get the boat out, paddle around to the front yard, paddle around to the backyard a little bit. Not try to put some skis on my lawnmower so I can cut the grass.
Sounds like a good day indeed, my friend. Thanks for giving us a call, and thanks for being a regular listener to O'Neill Outside.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Have yourself a great one. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, I see somebody here that we just love to chat with every week. And who's this calling but Don from where?
Ocean Isle, North Carolina.
Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to Ocean Isle, North Carolina. How are you?
Pretty good.
Outstanding. What's the scoop today?
Not much. I got a question for a gun question, since I understand you know a little bit about them.
I know a little bit. Maybe I can help you out. What are we looking for here today?
I got a 380, and I always load that clip one round shy to try to save pressure on the spring. Is that necessary?
You know what? For your peace of mind, I would say yes, but I don't think it's necessary per se. And let me explain. You are saving a little pressure on the spring when you keep one round out of the magazine. No question about that. That will keep that spring lasting longer. But I'll tell you the truth. I've carried around some mags that have been fully loaded for years with absolutely zero loss in performance. So
okay.
It becomes a question of this. If you're worried about the longevity of the magazine, then by all means leave that extra round out, but keep in mind that it's going to give you the oddball number in your mag. You know, if it's a 12-round mag, you got to get used to shooting 11 before reloads, that kind of thing.
Right,
so other than that, it's, 6 of one, half a dozen other, personal preference kind of a thing. I would only really recommend it if you have a magazine that's on a, let's say, a very old gun or a very hard to find gun. In which case, then, yes, it's worth your time to keep as much pressure off that spring as possible to prolong the longevity of that magazine.
Okay. We got area over here at Frying Pan Shoals that goes about 42 miles out in the ocean. Some of those rocks are, 3 or 4 feet under the water at extreme low tide. And at the end of the shoals out there, they got a tower. It's in about 45 feet of water, and they've got a webcam underneath that tower that during the day you can see all the fish that are around that tower, and you will be amazed at the number of fish that are in that area right around that tower. Anything from 7 to 8 foot sharks to a lot of ringtails and triggerfish and all of the fish that feed around those towers.
What makes that area so special around that tower where all these fish are just congregating? I'm assuming that feeder fish of some kind, the lowest on the food chain, are gathered there, and everybody else just kind of moves in with it. But what about that area is producing that?
Well, it's like in the Gulf when they have those oil rigs out there. They have algae they grow and barnacles and all that attach themselves to that tower, and they attract the smaller fish, and then the bigger fish after the smaller fish, and it migrates up the ladder.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Got any plans to get on out there today, Don?
Well, not today. It's a little bit too cold over here today, and we're still getting ready for the springtime, and we'll be bottom fishing out there in the near future, probably 1st of March.
That sounds like a game plan. Nothing wrong with that. I know right now today down here in Atlanta, it is cold, man, and I do mean cold. And I know y'all up north on WEEI, you're laughing. You don't know what cold is down south. I get it. I get it. We're not into ice fishing. We don't understand these concepts. But when I tell you that, we're not used to waking up in the morning and finding a 22-degree hard freeze and, worries about ice and stuff like that, sorry, it's just not our thing, y'all.
Yep, that's the reason people don't retire to the north, Scott.
Absolutely. I mean, seriously, who wants to deal with that? I mean, look, I'm not banging on y'all states up there north of the Mason-Dixon. They're wonderful, and I've been to many of them, and I have enjoyed myself in the outdoors plenty of times. But I'm not going to lie to you. I like waking up in the morning in December, walking out my door, and it be 65 degrees on occasion. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Right on. All right, John. Got to get on out of here and continue with some business. Hope you have yourself a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much. And if you want to jump in and participate in the program, the number is 404-872-0750. Outside the Metro Atlanta calling area, 800-972-8255. That'll put you in line to talk with me. Just hit the phones and talk with our good friend friend Justin. He'll be happy to take your information, let you know what you want to talk about here. And if you have a question, firearms, fishing, turkey hunting, whatever, I'll see what I can do for you. If I don't have an answer, surely somebody out there in the vast, huge realm of O'Neill Outside listeners has the information you need. So give us a call, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 FM WSB. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim here, filling in for O'Neill. You're listening to us in the South on 95.5 WSB Atlanta News and Talk, and coast to coast nationwide on SB Nation Radio. I'm going to go right back to the phones here because we have one of our regular callers we like to hear from now and again. And who's this here, my friend? Is this one Milton?
Milton Crabapple.
Well, good to hear from you, sir. How's things in the over by the jail these days?
Well, it's cold this morning.
You darn right it's cold, man. I woke up this morning and I just wanted to crawl right back under the covers.
You know, you mentioned ice fishing a while ago. You ever been ice fishing?
I cannot say that I have, sir.
You know, me and Dude tried it one time. I don't care for ice fishing at all. It's way too much work for me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you know, it took us over 2 hours just to get a hole chopped out in the ice big enough to put the boat in. By the time we got through, we was too tired to fish.
You weren't using the big old bass boat. I'm hoping you were just running around in a little John boat at least.
Well, that's all we could get a hole chopped out big enough. You know, you were talking about that fella a while ago. I heard you talking about this fella that got bit in the head by a copperhead.
Yeah, in a tree, no less. I mean, that's just completely abnormal behavior for that snake this time of year.
You know, I had a friend one time, a cousin, that got bit in the head by one, and he died.
No.
Yeah, he did. He didn't die from the snake bite, but his buddy was with him, put a tourniquet around his neck.
Stop that blood flow and the poison from spreading, huh?
Yeah, he stopped the snake bite, but the fella couldn't breathe. Sure. Well, you got to be careful when you treat somebody.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. You know, what's the oath? Do no harm?
You know, when you was talking about turkey hunting earlier, and I wanted to comment on something. You said what was the most important thing? Was it calling, or was it your setup, or your clothing, or whatever?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you remember Roscoe Reams, but I reckon he was about the best turkey hunter around. I think he killed about 500 turkeys in his lifetime.
I believe that is the man who says that patience kills turkeys.
He does. He said the most important aspect of turkey hunting, whether it's your blind or your calling or your location, your setup, whatever, he said the most important aspect is whatever you happen to be working on at the time.
Absolutely.
He said you can't neglect any of them.
No, and actually, I've got a little checklist here before we head into turkey season next month, and that is part of it, actually.
You know, I was turkey hunting one time. I've told O'Neill this story before, but I might not have told you. I was heading back to the truck, and all of a sudden I heard a turkey gobble right over a little rise. I mean, it sounded like he weren't but about 50 yards away. But I was out in the clearing. There weren't no... The only tree out there was a blowdown. A big old oak tree had blowed down. Thing must have been 4 feet thick. So I got down behind that oak tree, and I called one time, and I didn't hear that turkey anymore, and all of a sudden that rascal gobbled. Now, I got down behind that tree, and he come around from the other side of the tree. And he gobbled, and he sounded like he weren't more than 10 feet away, but I couldn't see him because of the tree was laying there. So I laid down and looked underneath that tree. There was about 6-inch gap between that tree and the ground. I looked underneath that tree, and I could see that turkey's feet on the other side.
No kidding.
Well, I just reached under there and grabbed him by the feet. And I'm telling you, he went to flopping and raising Cain, but the tree was so big around, I couldn't reach over it with my other hand to get a hold of him. So I was in a real mess, and he was flopping and carrying on and hollering, so I decided what to do, and it worked out pretty good. I just let go of him and then called him around to the other side of the tree and shot him.
Well, how come he didn't take off?
Well, don't ask me.
Huh.
I guess I'm a good caller.
After you traumatize a turkey like that, man, you better sound like something that Bird wants to break out some Barry White and champagne with.
I'm telling you, you never know what they're going to do.
Well, you got any plans to get out there come turkey season here in a month?
I'll be out there. I'll be out there opening day, I reckon. As always.
And can I assume that perhaps Dude has some new invention for calling the birds this year, or some new lure he's working on?
Well, you know, he's got that lure that's good for everything. He's got a lure that's good for deer, turkey. It's even good for putting on your fish bait.
What?
He sure does. It's an all-purpose. It's a liquid lure. It's called Dude's Number 1.
Okay.
And then he's got one that's a paste. It's Dude's Number 2.
Uh-oh.
I tell you, it smells awful, but it sure does work.
I don't doubt that for a second, sir.
I call it Deer Drive in a bottle.
Oh.
You can go on the edge of a swamp and put some of that Dude's Number 1 or Dude's Number 2 out on the ground, and then you go all the way around to the other side of the swamp and sit and wait.
And driving right
to. That's where they'll show up.
Outstanding. Well, my friend, I'm going to jump back into the program here, and hope you have yourself a wonderful weekend. And
stop by the jail when you're in Crabapple.
We shall do that thing, sir. Thanks for giving us a call here today. All right. Milton Crabapple here on O'Neill Outside on WSB. If you want to call and take his place in the queue, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255, outside of the metro calling area. So earlier, I took a call in the mailbag with a person who had a really bad venison meal. Now, y'all out there, you got a whole freezer full of this stuff. You're ready to go for the year, and you know, you want to make sure that the venison tastes like it should. You swear to God that that deer you shot didn't have Nike written across its flank, so it shouldn't taste like shoe leather. Here's some reasons why your venison may not be as good as it can be this year or perhaps in the past. The first problem, the clean shot. It starts with the shot, y'all. A nice clean shot on a deer will drop that animal where it stands, and you want to do this. One, it's humane, but two, the longer it takes for a deer to die and the farther it runs, the more adrenaline and lactic acid builds up in the muscle tissues, and that ruins the meat's flavor. So try to finish the animal as quickly and humanely as possible to minimize this. Now, some hunters will say, okay, the headshot, that's the way to go. And to an extent, I agree. The headshot is the way to go. That animal has no idea what hit it instantaneously, and it drops. No running, no chasing, no adrenaline. None of that stuff is happening, okay? But it's not always the cleanest shot. It's not always the easiest shot. Whoop. Hey, President Trump jumping in. Glad to hear from you. I guess he's all about clean, good tasting venison too. Hey, and also, so that's the thing there, folks. The preferred shot is the typical shot in the flank, hit the heart, the lungs, right about that shoulder area. But if you got a good, solid, clean headshot, if you feel like you can take it and you're good enough, by all means do so. That will help preserve the flavor of the meat. Secondly, field dress your deer quickly. Now, why are you doing this? Because the internal bacteria of the animal's digestive tract and organs take over upon death, okay? And it begins the decomposition process. By removing the organs and the bacteria through the field dressing, you remove their influence on any of the meat that is around that area. Now, in warm weather, this is critical. This is absolutely critical. You want to get that done quickly and get it on ice as fast as possible, because that heat activates that bacteria a lot more quickly. In cooler weather, in the mid-30s or lower, like it would be, if you were out today, if it were season today, you could have about 24 hours if you hang the animal before you get in there. But again, the quicker you process the meat, the better, okay? Secondly, when you process the meat, make sure you're using clean knives, okay? Clean knives are key. You don't want to have the flavor influenced by something that is less than tasty. Let's just put it that way. And I guess that goes without saying, really, when you think about it. But here's another thing, okay? Use specialized knives to avoid contamination from knives that you use to skin the animal. In other words, Skinning the animal, use one knife. Gutting the animal, use another knife. Processing the animal, use a third. Make sure that no cross-contamination occurs from these knives. Also, using saws, not really good. Okay, if you start using saws to process your animal, that introduces bits of bone and other debris into the meat, and it's not going to result in a tasty meal. Another one, trim the fat on the animal. Now, deer fat is not like beef fat. It doesn't add to the flavor of the meat. It actually takes away from the flavor of the meat. Now, the good news is that the meat itself, the venison, is very lean. There's no marbling. There's no fat in the middle of it. It's just a really good lean cut of meat. And when you process the animal, the fat is in deposits around the areas that you're processing. So it's real easy to trim. Get as much of that off as possible. Two reasons. One, and we'll talk about this a little later too, those are areas where chronic wasting disease, prions, these little things that mess you up, they hang out in fatty tissues, lymph tissues, that kind of thing. Make sure you trim all that off. And two, just remove anything that's not rich and red in color. That's the kind of stuff you want to just kick to the curb. You want nothing to do with it, okay? Here's another thing you need to know about it. Know the meat's limitations. And by limitations, okay, know what the meat is good for. Okay, certain meals are just not the way to go with venison. Like, for example, some people might find just the steaks a little gamey, or oversaturating them with marinades or spices. That can interact with the meat and create some really, well, let's just be honest, not good flavors. With ground venison, here's a little tip for you. Since it's so lean, what you have to do is introduce a little bit of beef fat in there when you're in the grinding process, or pork in there, and that'll help keep that hamburger together. It'll keep it a little more flavorful. It won't distract. Just use a quick flip of it. Give it a few minutes on each side, and then it get nice and stirred up. But make sure the meat is a little bit pink in the middle. You don't want to go full well done, because that will also add to kind of the shoe leather flavor. Okay. Another reason that meat may not taste so good. That meat may not be yours. What? You shot the deer, you took it to a processor, he processes the deer and hands it back to you, right? Not always the case. Sometimes processors process meat for a lot of hunters, and in order to save time, they'll process meat in mass, okay? So if you bring in a deer for processing, they'll weigh it out and say you have 80 pounds of venison coming to you from this animal, okay? He'll just, he'll do all the processing to the animal, but you may get handed 80 pounds of meat from another animal, or a combination from different animals. You don't know how that animal was shot. You don't know if it was running around like crazy, adding to the problem with the lactic acid buildup in the adrenaline. You don't know if they got it out of the woods, properly gutted as it should be, So make sure that when you have a processor, that processor is dedicated to your animal and your animal only, to ensure that your kill and the meat that you get from it is in fact yours, okay? Let's see what else. Do not overcook the meat. We talked about that. Do not cook it too long at a lower temperature. Seems a little counterintuitive. If you don't want to burn it and turn it to shoe leather, cook it a little lower and a little longer. Don't do that. Over the long term, it produces the same effect. Improper packaging and freezing. You prevent freezer burn to keep that meat tasting perfect. Make sure that you label each package with the date and the deer's name so you know how long it's been in there. And finally, kiss your venison. Keep it simple, silly. Don't get crazy with experimentation when it comes to cooking your meat. Hopefully, this will help you out. We're going to dive out of here for a minute or two. This is Scott Maxim. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside, closing out hour number 1 here, and looking for you to make a contribution to the program. Give us a call, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. And before we roll out of here at the top of the hour, I want to talk about a really cool story that comes out of Needville, Texas. This is great. This is why the outdoors is so much fun, because you never know what you're going to get. Okay? Picture this. Foster High School senior Jack Pytel was out in a river just doing some catfishing. He wasn't expecting to catch anything more than a few catfish that day, but to his surprise, his hook got bit, that pole bent down, and on the end of it, he found out he was fighting a 190-pound, 7'5" alligator gar. Whoa, are you kidding? That's right. He got himself an alligator gar using chicken livers as bait, and it's trust me when I tell you, it's amazing seeing a picture of this kid online next to his catch. This thing dwarfs him by about 1.5 feet tall. And at 190 pounds, it's an impressive fish. However, check this out. It's nowhere close to the record. The record in Texas is 302 pounds. And it was caught back in 1953. Now, Jack, he had a great old time landing this fish. It took him over a half hour to do it. At one point, he gave the pole to his girlfriend, and she says, I can't handle this thing. I can't handle it. She gave it right on back to him. But what he ended up with at the end of the day was a feast for the family. They took that gar home, and they cooked it up, and I guess you could do that. And I don't know. I've never heard about people eating it, but I guess they eat it in Texas. Why not? It's big. And had a great old time. So remember, you go outside in nature and you're never really sure what you're going to get. It will surprise you. All right, hour 1 done. Hour 2 coming up. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, and coast to coast on SB Nation Radio on over 150 stations. Come on back. I just want to get you back into the program here. You can check us out on the Fox networks if you're into the video thing. Visit O'Neill Outside as well for all the video on demand. What is that? Old shows archived for your convenience. Get on there, check them out. Now, as we speak, we are live in the South on 95.5 FM WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, and coast to coast on SB Nation with 155 affiliate stations all over this fine country. From WEEI in Boston up north to out west, the big ticket in Big D, Dallas, Texas. Glad to have you aboard this morning. And if you'd like to contribute to the program, the number is 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255 outside the Atlanta calling area. Want to remind you also that if you're looking for a good read to kind of keep your time busy as we're in the winter months, a little cold out, check out O'Neill's book, People and Places Along the Way. You can find a copy of that on the O'Neill Outside website, or you can find it at Amazon.com. O'Neill Outside, People and Places Along the Way, chock full of great stories about O'Neill's adventures in hunting across the United States, the people he met, and also some great recipes for you in that book as well. This hour, we're going to continue our talk on venison, or what I like to call the miracle meat. I have a checklist for your turkey season coming up, and at the end of the program, the Medal of Honor recipient. These always put life in perspective for me. I hope they do the same for you. Stick around. You're going to want to check that out. And more of your calls, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. That's the toll-free number, and it spells out WSB Talk. Scott Maxim here for O'Neill. We'll be back. You need to be too. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill and Woman Williams this week. I want to remind you the program is brought to you by WORX Tools, Stripling's General Store, TUFF Shed, Snellville Heating and Air, Rocco's Pub, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and State Parks and Historical Sites, the Big Green Egg Smokers and Grills, and True Turn Hooks and Roadrunner Lures. And as long as we're talking about hooks and lures, we got a guy on the line who knows more about them than anybody I know off the top of my head. We got Captain Mac here. How are you doing today, Mac?
Good morning, Scott. I'm doing great. How about you?
I am doing exceptionally well, and I have actually been waiting all day to hear from you because, once again, we've got weird weather patterns setting up this weekend. It's got to be driving the little tiny ichthyon brains in those fish crazy.
Yeah, it's probably me more than them, if you want to know the truth. Yeah, I'm not sure who's suffering the most. This has been crazy.
Of course, the lake, most all of our lakes are high, and Lanier was just shy of its all-time high last week by
outstanding.
By half a foot. But, it's caused a lot of changing water conditions. And what's really interesting, what we're seeing on Lanier, and I've heard the same from other lakes, the stripers stayed super deep. They won't come shallow. And I think it's because that water's so stable down there. There's plenty of bait, oxygen's good, and we're not getting all this new water coming in, so they won't come out of the deep water. It's made patterns somewhat unusual for this time of year. But the good news is fishing stayed pretty good through all of this. It was just different than what we're used to in years past, and to some degree the same with the bass. It's been interesting, and it's been an inconvenience, I guess, to a lot of fishermen because some of our ramps were closed. So you couldn't put in where you wanted to. Like Lanier, most of the core lakes, most all lakes in the southeast, for that matter, have really good access. You could put in where you want to go fishing. You don't have to drive around a lot. And some of our ramps closed. So, you had to move around a little bit.
So, why did the ramps close, by the way? That's kind of curious.
It's just the water was so high in places. They were submerged. The courtesy docks were submerged. It becomes a safety issue because you can't see the ramp or you can't see the curbs on the ramp. So, you're not paying attention. You back off the side of a little ledge or something, and it's not very good.
Yeah, you don't want to start off a fishing trip with the boat going sideways in the water. That just doesn't make any sense to anybody.
No, that's not how you want to start your day at pre-dawn or something like that. So
no, negative. So what's the game plan this weekend? If you're going to be hitting the lake, what do we need to be looking for?
Well, I would encourage people to go. Just be careful. You might want to check before you go. Make sure the ramp you're planning on using is open. You can go to the Corps of Engineers Facebook page and check on all their ramps. And some of the ramps are public. Some of the marinas or counties. Just check with them. And then watch for floating debris when you're on the lake, particularly on the upper end of the lake. But that's even getting better. That's starting to subside. If you're going fishing, I think the deeper patterns, whether you're bass fishing or striper fishing, the deeper patterns seem to be more consistent. A lot of bass in 25 to 40 feet. There are some shallow fish, too. They're scattered out, and it's hard to get the numbers because they're, when the water comes up like this, the bass will go get in shallow stuff. They'll go get in a park bench, whatever they can find.
Right on.
Yeah, literally, sometimes you catch one off a barbecue grill now. But a lot of times there'll be a fish here, and then you got to go a long ways, there'll be another fish, and that's kind of the case. So the deeper patterns, again, where the water's more stable. So, if I was bass fishing, I'd concentrate on a lot of the docks. That's been a really good pattern. Creek channels and drains, 25 to 40 feet. If you're striper fishing, just find a deep bait. If you can find bait where it's layered up on the bottom, and that might be anywhere from 40 all the way down to 80 or 90 feet, fish around those bait concentrations, down rods, live bait. That's been a good pattern. You should be able to catch some.
Outstanding.
So all in all, it's good. Certainly worth doing.
Oh, and that's the thing we wanted to hear, I mean, if you're going to be getting out in the cold today, I hate to say it, it's got to be worth it, brother.
It's got to be worth it. You can start late. You don't have to go this morning. Let it warm up a few degrees, but don't be discouraged because we have had crazy weather. We've had all this influx of new water. The fishing part of it's weathered the storm pretty well. You just might not fish in places or how you fished in the past, but overall fishing's good. And, man, we're right around the corner from spring, so good things coming. We're close.
Oh, yeah, really, really looking forward to a little bit of the warmer weather. And for me personally, man, just to be able to get out more. I'm tired of being sequestered in my house, just freezing my keister off.
Man, all that rain, all that cloud cover, I think it takes a toll. It's gloomy. So, yeah, we're ready for – we've had winter. I'm ready to move on. I think most people are.
Right on. Well, Mac, let's see, get you some information out there about how to get in touch with you for a Lanier guide or whatever information you can provide as far as people getting in contact with you, sir. What do we got?
Sure. You can check us out online. You can contact us through Facebook or message us. That's CaptainMax.com. You can see an expanded version of this fishing report on the Facebook page every week, or you can always call us at 770-271-0851.
Outstanding. Well, have yourself a great day, sir, and if you're going to be going out at all, I hope you whack a ton of them.
Well, actually, I won't be on the lake today. I was going to let everybody know if you're out in the Gainesville area, we'll be at the grand opening of the Beverly Ace Hardware. We'll be up there talking fishing. Yeah, so come on by and visit with us, and want one of my colleagues, Captain Ron Mullins, will be there as well. So actually, we're going to go up there and tell people where to fish. We're going to tell them to go to all Henry's places, probably.
There you go. That sounds like a game plan.
Yeah.
All right,
buddy.
Thanks for checking in, Mac. Look forward to talking to you again next time.
Well, likewise. Thanks. Good catching up with you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye now. All right, y'all. Captain Matt checking in with us with the Lake Lanier report, and life is good on Lanier. Glad to hear. All right, so let's get back to this conversation about the miracle meat I call venison. It's a wonderful meat, and there's numerous reasons why it's a very, very good and should be a part of your diet, okay? First and foremost, when you take a look at it, comparatively speaking, to beef, pork, or lamb, it's the highest in protein. That's right. In a half-pound ground patty, you're going to get about 60.2 grams of protein in this meat. Very, very well packed in there. Conversely, beef and pork, 58.3, not bad. Lamb, about the same. Now, it's also, as we said before, a leaner meat. You're not going to find the marbling in there. You're not going to find the fatty tissues in these cuts of meat. So it's a healthier option for those who are conscious of fat in their diet. And also, here's another thing about it too. Because it's so densely packed with protein, when you eat it, you actually you feel full for a longer amount of time. That's right. You could eat a little less deer meat, for example, than beef or pork or chicken, and you get just as much, if not more, protein, and you feel fuller. Less calories, more filling. What's not to like about that? Secondly, it's a grass-fed meat. All natural. Does it get better than that? I don't think so, okay? It is an animal with a completely natural diet. It's compared to farm-raised or even organic. There's a minimum amount of human influence on this animal's meat, okay? What could that mean? Diet, for example. It's going to eat what it eats, grass primarily, nuts and whatever it can find, versus what we feed the animals in order to achieve an effect that we're looking for, whether it be larger bulk, more meat yield, a fattier cut for better taste, whatever. Nature dictates the meat, not mankind. Another one, stress. The animal is living a less stressful life than perhaps farm animals or large-scale farming operations with animals on them. Not to mention the fact that the whole slaughterhouse thing doesn't come into play either. The stress on the animal, as we discussed earlier, will affect the ultimate flavor of the meat. Less stress on the animal, less wear and tear on the animal as far as its fight or flight responses, the better the meat will be in the long run. We're going to get back to that here in a little bit. Just want to let you know, if you'd like to call, 404-872-0750 is the number, 800-972-8255. That's outside the Metro Atlanta calling area. Give us a call. Let us know how your deer hunt went this year, what you bagged, what you plan on doing it. Heck, call me with a recipe. Get my mouth watering, okay? Because all that's going to do is just make me want to, I might show up at your place looking for a handout, okay? Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill and Woman Williams here today on O'Neill Outside, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this week. Coming at you live on 95.5 FM WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, and coast to coast on SB Nation Radio with 155 stations across this country, bringing this to you. If you'd like to join in on the program, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. I'm going to finish up real quickly here with the health benefits of venison meat, and then we'll jump back on the phones here in a second. John, stand by. I'll get to you as quick as I can. So, as we said earlier in the last segment, it's high in protein, it's a grass-fed natural meat, but it has specific benefits for human beings. Well, like what, for example? Well, how about this? It's 5 times higher on average in omega-3 fatty acids than beef. Why do you care? Here's the reason. Benefits for humans include fighting anxiety, depression. It improves eye health. It can promote brain health during pregnancy and early life. What? Improves risk factors against heart disease. Has been found to benefit kids with ADHD. Really? And can help reduce obesity, fight inflammation, and others. In other words, there is a direct link to eating this meat that will benefit human beings. Very good for you, y'all. Also, low in calories and fat. Again, 3 ounces of lean beef contain 247 calories and 15 grams of fat. Conversely, 3 ounces of venison contains 134 calories and only 3 grams of total fat. Plus, with the lesser fat, less chance for heart disease and problems associated with that. It's very nutrient dense versus other meats out there. Has a host of B-complex vitamins, zinc, which is great for warding off a cold this time of year, iron, this is a tough one for me, DHA, otherwise docosahexaenoic acid. And the big word means that it helps reduce triglyceride fats that lead to high blood pressure and cholesterol, okay? Another benefit. I never knew this. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't have known this had I not fallen down a rabbit hole doing some research on this week. I had no clue. I'll be honest with you. No clue how good it was for me. Okay? If you're looking to lose weight, again, a great meat. If you're on a high-protein diet, like, for example, I've been on South Beach for years. I'm always looking for a high-protein source to help ward off hunger and keep me lean. You know, I do the low-carb thing. This is awesome. It's a meat that is great for those not only looking to lose weight, but to build mass. If you're a bodybuilder, athlete, it's great stuff for part of your diet. Make it a part of your diet, okay? Here's some other stuff that's not so much from the healthy side of venison, but benefits it well as well. It tastes really good. Now, conversely, we had a letter from a guy who said he had an awful meal. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and we talked about why it may be that you had the awful meal of venison. Normally, not the case. It is really, really good and really versatile. I've used it in chili. I've had steaks, just throw them on the grill and cook them up. I've had sausages, and let me tell you something, man. A venison sausage, when you kick it next to some eggs and bacon in the morning, is amazing. It is a great way to start your day and a great source of protein, okay? Secondly, it will save you money. What? Absolutely. Now, keep in mind, there is an initial investment involved in hunting. Granted, guns, gear, that sort of thing. But when we add all that up, you know, just kind of kick it to the curb, cost of doing business, if you will, when you take a look at what you yield from the typical deer versus what it costs to buy beef, okay? Average cost in the United States about $4.25 for a pound of beef. Venison, 95 cents per pound. How can that be? Because when you take an animal, you're looking at between 70 and 80 pounds of edible meat. And when you factor in the costs and everything like that, after the initial cost of the equipment, it comes out to about 95 cents per pound. Save money, folks. That's another great reason to go out and get into some deer hunting. Okay? Here's another thing that people don't take into account enough. Satisfaction of doing something yourself. You hunted for the animal, you took the animal, you cleaned the animal, you prepped the animal, and now you're serving it. You can do it with pride, whether you're serving your family or friends or just even yourself. Knowing that you put this on the table is just such a boost for one's own self-esteem, and it goes a long way just to having a healthier outlook on yourself, okay? Here's another reason that it's good to, good meat. In order to get it, you got to be outdoors. You got to be getting some exercise. So while you're walking around, prepping up your tree stand or out in the woods, going to your spot, you're going to be crossing some territory. You're going to be working your legs, your arms, cardio, everything. It's fantastic, and it's a great way to stay in shape, getting that deer meat, okay? It also helps control the deer population. Now, people say, killing deer, it's wrong or whatever, let them do their thing. Well, if you don't manage the herd, if you don't manage the population, they're going to starve, or they're going to be covered, the disease could set in something. In any case, when they're unchecked, it just allows for a lot more problems with the herd, and overall is not good as far as keeping a healthy population in the state, okay? And finally, here's one other thing too. You can actually help feed people. A lot of food banks will take donations of venison from hunters if they want to. Hunters want to do something charitable with their hunt every year. a great way to do it is to help feed people through food banks or charitable organizations or whatever. But it's another reason why venison is quite possibly the best thing out there for you as far as meat. I love it. I'm not going to lie. I highly endorse it. And would love to hear what you guys do with it, as a matter of fact. Give us a call, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. Tell us how your hunt went this year. Tell us if you've got a freezer full of meat, what you plan on doing it. Right now, I'm going to go back to the phones here. I have a very patient gentleman here named John calling from New York. John, let's see if we can get you here. And you are on O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB. Good morning.
Yes, greetings from the Catskill Mountains, where we're still thankful we could pick you up on the radio up here. I can't believe it.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Outstanding.
I had company the past few weeks, different times. My brothers, one from Florida and one from Long Island, and both of those guys really enjoyed your show. They were here drinking coffee with me in the morning and listening to everybody's stories, and they had a really good time listening, just as I do.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I know O'Neill loves hearing when people are listening to the show.
Yes, yes. Now, the Catskill Mountains, just the
Lay it
name
on me.
just the name Catskill has the word kill in it. That derives from the Dutch word kill, which means creek or stream. Okay. Now, we have a lot of the streams and creeks named Beaver Kill, Batavia Kill, the Red Kill, and so forth. And there's down along the Hudson River, there's even a village of Fish Kill.
Huh.
And, in 1996, the PETA organization, the animal rights group, they wanted the village of Fishkill to change their name because it sounded like it incited violence against fish.
Oh, no. And you know what? It is such a problem in America today with just random gangs just attacking fish in the streets. I mean, unprovoked. You know, it's just really what it is, and I'll be honest with you, it is actually discrimination against the scaled, okay? That's what that's all about. I have no patience for it. I do not endorse it.
Well, it just shows you the ignorance of some people without knowing their history and such, you know. And, well, of course, they were told to take a walk, of course, you know.
Oh, look, and let me tell you something, too. Along those lines, and this isn't necessarily related to the outdoors, but PETA, in its infinite wisdom, tried the same thing up in Green Bay. They were actually serious when they said the Green Bay Packers, which is a reference to the meatpacking industry of the area, should change their name to the Green Bay Pickers to reflect a more agrarian and less harmful team mascot.
Wow.
That's incredible. You know, at some point, and I'm typically not this uptight when people express an opinion, but when it's just so blatantly dumb, it needs to be called out for being blatantly dumb.
Right. Now, I understand you guys are getting some rains down there. Mississippi, I guess, got really hit bad with the flooding.
Yeah, and we've had some weather moving through the south, yeah. Yeah,
we've had our share of flash floods up here, because it's flash floods, because the mountains, it comes right down and then it's gone just as quick as it came. We've had floods in 1996, 2006, 2011, but this one flood, I got to let you know about this, in the newspaper. They quoted a guy as saying he started seeing, this is down in the villages, he started seeing the water rising up, so he figured he better get out while the getting's good. So he grabbed his three most prized possessions, his Bible, his shotgun, and his bottle of scotch.
Not necessarily in that order, maybe.
Everybody's priorities are different, I guess.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. I guess a bottle of scotch and a Bible and a shotgun's got you pretty much covered for about 90% of whatever's coming your way, sir.
Yes, yes. So I'm appreciating all you talk about venison, and that's what I feast on up here, too. And next week I'll be making some venison chili for the church luncheon. Last time I bought wild turkey soup.
Oh, man. Can I just tell you, venison chili is one of my favorite recipes. I used to make that so much when I was in college. I love that stuff.
Yep.
Well, John, I'll tell you what, appreciate you giving us a call here today and giving us a little history of one of the prettiest parts of America there, and hope to hear from you again sometime.
You bet. Thanks.
All
Take
right.
care.
Thank you, and have a good one. If you want to join the program, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. We're going to dip out here for just a little bit, but we'll be back with more outdoor talk on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. This is O'Neill Outside.
If you think
Morning. All right, let's go back to the phones real quick. I got a couple people here that have been patiently waiting. And let's see here. Let's go to Richard in West Virginia. Good morning, Richard, and welcome to O'Neill Outside. Glad to have you on board this morning.
Thank you so much. You know,
What can we
they
do
have one thing you were saying. You don't mind telling somebody when they say something dumb that it is dumb.
I think sometimes you have to. I think, to entertain silliness is to entertain nonsense, and I'm just not about that, my friend.
Oh, okay, that's good, because I know that I've done that and called in when I hear something dumb. I'd call into a local show and say, that was a dumb question. First thing that happens is they will come back to you and say, what makes you think that you're so smart? They're always going to hit you with something to make you belittle you and say, well, you're not exactly the Phi Beta Kappa of this radio show either.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? And I let that float. I don't even worry about that stuff. I say my piece, I move on and carry on. So, Richard, I believe you have a question for us here this morning pertaining to the rut. Is that correct, sir?
I do. When they have that here, and this might be a dumb question.
No. Let's get back to that. There are no dumb questions, sir. Just dumb people. So carry on.
Is a rut the same every place in the country every year? Just like from here, I believe it's from mid-October until mid-December. Is that usually what it is, like 2 months? That's always interesting me how it is that the rut is the same time. And just like right now, if you would go out, because I hit a deer about a month ago, and I'm just thinking, now is it okay to go out at night that you know you're not going to hit a deer because this is February and the rut is over?
I can tell you right now, first of all, to answer that question, no. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because as I was coming in this morning, I'm coming in down the mountain road here to the studio, and lo and behold, there's a doe and a couple fawns behind her. So they are moving. They are definitely moving, so you do have to be aware of that. Now, with reference to the rut, okay, it's an interesting question you put there. Is the rut the same nationwide? The answer is yes and no. Yes, it is the same time of year everywhere across the United States, but it's dependent on where you are in the United States. For example, here in Georgia, we have a slightly different rut season compared to Alabama next door. The reason why is because of photoperiodism. It's the amount of light that actually activates the rut. So every year around the same time, the deer are going to go into the rut, and wherever you are locally, check your regulations and such. But generally speaking, it's going to occur the same time in your area because of photoperiodism, the amount of light that's out there every day.
The amount of light that's out there every day.
Yes, sir. That is actually what drives the rut. When the light starts decreasing as you're heading into the wintertime, for some reason or another, the deer get busy. And it's all based upon photoperiodism.
It's not because when the females are in heat?
Well, and that's, again, driven by the time of the year, and, again, it's driven by the light. So, yeah, that's what's happening, is it's activating that part of their cycle, if you will.
Let's just say, like, right now, if you want to go out at nighttime, the chances are, like, pretty slim that you would hit not seeing a fawn and their mother walking around. I'm just talking about the bucks and the does, the bucks going after the does. Right now, would you say the rut is over? The chances of hitting a deer now are going to be slim to none?
No, I don't think your chances are going to be any less or any more based on that. You may get a little bit more movement than usual because of the rut, but I hesitate to say whether it will actually have an effect on like overall car hits and that kind of thing.
All right, I would say I guess I thank you, but I just thought you'd tell me it was over so I could say be free to go out and just say, well, I'm not going to hit it, because I couldn't believe when I hit it. It's like hitting a brick wall.
Oh,
I didn't even know what I hit until I went to get it fixed at the body shop, and they saw deer hair on the car, and they said hit a deer. I didn't even know it. I thought I hit a brick wall. It seemed like.
I'm telling you what, they are no joke, and you know, I've even seen instances reported of fatalities caused by bucks when they get hit by a car. They'll roll up over that hood, go straight through the windshield, and then the horns, you know, the antlers, end up impaling people in the car. As crazy as it sounds, it does happen. So you are correct in that you do need to really, really pay attention, you know, especially during rut season. These guys are moving all over the place. They're a little more active looking for their females. But simply because it's over doesn't necessarily mean you have less chance of hitting a deer on the road. How's that work, man?
I guess that sounds halfway decent, so I'll just accept that and just move on.
Right on. Have yourself a great one, Richard. Thanks for calling. All right, moving on. I've got a caller here. Blah, 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 boom. Hey, got a guy from Noonan named Wolf who says he's got a really great Christmas present. What was this Christmas present, Wolf?
Well, because of the way the deer season falls right there in the fall, you get your deer salt, you know, you get your deer processed, you get several sticks of deer sausage, deer salami, depending on what you call it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anybody that doesn't love getting a stick of deer salami for Christmas.
Oh, look, let me tell you what. Again, it's just such a great food. And to be honest with you, too, it's kind of unusual to throw somebody a venison salami, isn't it?
It's you know, there's only so many hunters, but everybody loves to eat the stuff.
Oh, man.
And then my favorite recipe is I make Italian beef out of the deer roast. And it's just to die for.
Oh, that sounds so good, man. Can I tell you, I want to tell you a quick little story here, Wolf, if I may, about how I got introduced to venison, okay? And it starts with me in the late 80s. Yes, I'm dating myself, at West Virginia University. I used to live with 3 guys, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend, was this girl named Chris. And twice a year, Chris would show up with arms of venison because her dad would go out and bag a couple deer, show up at her place with 80 to 100 pounds of venison, and she had no room for it. So she would show up at our place with tons of food. And for about the next 3 to 4 weeks, we had every meal. We had burgers, and we had steaks, and we had sausages. I mean, and it was just fantastic. And we just had the greatest time. To this day, I wish I'd met her dad to thank him for feeding me, because I surely would have starved.
Yeah. I don't know too many hungry hunters or fishermen.
No, sir. No, sir. If you can catch it, you can grill it up, and plenty of good recipes out there for that stuff.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you have a good morning, sir.
I will do that thing, but only if you promise to do the same, sir.
Well, I'm about 2 minutes away from work, and this is the first Saturday we've had to work in over a year.
Well, you know,
so, I guess business is good.
I would say this, if business is good, that's a good thing. And if you got to do a little bit of what you have to do to later on do what you want to do, that's just fine too.
That's right. Be safe, right, man.
Have yourself a great one. Thanks for the call. All right, back to the phones here. Back to the phones. Let's go to John in Lilburn. Hold on, wrong button there. Let me get that thing shut up. John in Lilburn.
Good morning.
Good morning. Glad to hear from you.
Yeah, I had talked to O'Neill a couple of weeks ago about the ruts, and we can't give this thing up. It concerns apparently the male deer. He said that ends in Thanksgiving. But if they are less active sexually, if you will, how come I've killed deer in January, does? I've never seen a growth of a fetus, if you will, in a doe. And if they're having, if the bucks stop showing a great deal of interest in the females by Thanksgiving, how come I've never killed a pregnant doe? You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I'm having a little difficulty. So essentially, what is it you're looking for here, John?
Well, we were talking about the rut, and I said that it started when the weather got cold, and he said, well, you just said that it's a photogenesis. Well, if the bucks aren't that interested after, say, Thanksgiving, they're still they're still sexually active. But if the rut ends when they're really active in Thanksgiving, how come there aren't a bunch of pregnant does running around?
Oh, in other words, how come they didn't get impregnated on that first rut?
Yeah.
Could be a couple reasons. Could be that the female is just avoiding the males for whatever reason she chooses. They may not be in estrus at all the same time. They may be in a low pressure area of males.
So the estrus and rut doesn't always run at the same time.
Well, it's a seasonal thing. There is no question. It does happen every year, and we know this, of course. But the animal itself, it may be more. That particular animal may not be in the same stage that other animals are, so the second rut kind of kicks in, and those animals are taken care of.
So sometimes you agree there is a second rut?
Oh, there's no question about it.
Yeah, okay. No question. That was my question. There was a second one. Okay, that makes good sense. Thank you so much. You cleared that up.
Hey, no problem. Happy to do so.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. All right, and to the phones we continue. Ricky in Athens, what you got for us here today, sir?
Good morning, Scott. I'm hungry. All this talk about this delicious venison, so wish I could get me a venison biscuit this morning, but... I have to say I got skunked this last season. You said to report your harvest, but all this talk about delicious venison has got me pumped up for the upcoming season, and I'm looking forward to even looking to bow hunt so I can get an early start.
Right.
But I wanted to ask you some questions about turkey hunting, if that's all right.
Lay it on me. Maybe I can help you out, sir.
Okay, so I'm a new turkey hunter. I've been able to go off and on for the last few years, but I have had the experience of seeing turkeys. Usually the ones I saw were hens, so no kill on those. But I've won a quota hunt, and I'm really excited about it because it's in Newton County. It's on one of the new WMAs. It's on the Gaither WMA. And they're only going to allow 10 people. And I thought, wow, that's so kind of special. I usually never win anything, but I guess the stars lined up.
No, that's beautiful.
I heard you talk earlier on the show, and I think Milton pumped in on it too, on the turkey hunting. I'm not going to use any of that stuff from Dude. I know he was trying to put a plug in there, but that's just not going to work for me. But the thing that I am interested in is the patience part, and what you would recommend I do prior to going on the hunt there, seeing how I've never been on that property before.
Okay, first things to keep in mind, when you're working the WMA, the reason why they keep that number low is because they don't want hunters working birds on top of each other, okay? Secondly, when you get out to the WMA, try to get out to a little bit more remote areas. Have a topography map handy. Look for areas that have creek beds that they work for water sources, or up against a little tree line or a log road. They like to work those areas. And gosh, I wish I had a little more time here. I got to bail out of here in about 15 seconds. But I'll see what I can do about posting up some tips for turkey season this year. I didn't get a chance to get to them in the program. I'll see if I can throw them up there on Facebook so you can check them out on O'Neill's page, okay?
Awesome, and I'm a top fan, so I'll definitely do that, Scott.
All right, thanks bunch.
Honor, courage, and strength of character. These qualities are embodied by the recipients of the Medal of Honor. Now let's recognize this week's Medal of Honor recipient on O'Neill Outside.
All right, finishing up the program as we do with the Medal of Honor tribute. Today, Technician Laverne Parrish, the Medal of Honor awarded February 22nd. Oh, I'm sorry, that's today's date, duh. Organization, U.S. Army. Theater, Philippine Islands, from the 18th to the 24th of January 1945. He was medical aid man with Company C during the fighting in the Philippine Islands. On the 18th, he observed 2 wounded men under enemy fire and immediately went to their rescue. After moving one to cover, he crossed 25 yards of open ground to administer aid to the second. In the early hours of the 24th, his company, crossing an open field, encountered intense enemy fire and was ordered to withdraw to the cover of a ditch. While treating the casualties, Technician Parrish observed 2 wounded still in the field. Without hesitation, he left the ditch, crawled forward under enemy fire, and in 2 successive trips brought both men to safety. He next administered aid to 12 casualties in the same field, crossing and recrossing the open area raked by hostile fire. Making successive trips, he then brought 3 wounded into cover. After treating nearly all of the 37 casualties suffered by his company, he was mortally wounded by mortar fire and shortly after died. The indomitable spirit, intrepidity, and gallantry of Technician Parrish saved many lives at the cost of his own. Medical technician Laverne Parrish died in battle in January of 1945. Pretty amazing stuff. And also, as I say every week, a fine example of perspective. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings to the end our program. I want to thank you for joining me today as I filled in for O'Neill and Gail, and hope to hear from you again sometime soon. In the meantime, grab a kid, get outdoors, go have some fun this weekend, and if you can't do it today, do it tomorrow, but do it sometime. And remember this, O'Neill Outside, we're the place you want to go when you want to talk the outdoors. It's been a pleasure hanging with you. Until next time, have a great one.
I once asked a mighty hunter, coming home from the field, how he came to possess such mighty hunting and fishing skill. He said, I'll tell you a secret, son. I learned everything I know from listening to O'Neill Outside on my radio. O'Neill, O'Neill, O'Neill Outside.